In this video, we're going to talk about some sampling techniques. And to understand sampling, we need to understand a population. A population is a group that has something in common. Now, when the United States wants to know how many people live in it or how many citizens they have, they do what's called a census. Well, a census is nearly impossible to accurately achieve. Well, so in order to find certain information about groups of people and about the population, they take a sample of the population. And a sample is a smaller group of the population selected to represent that population. So some types of designs or ways that we can survey individuals for a sample representation of our population is, one of those ways is a voluntary response sample. This is where people choose themselves to be in the sample by responding to a general appeal. So for instance, ESPN Radio has call-in shows. Their sample of individuals are those who choose to call in and comment on certain sports events and statistics. Another example you can think of as Katniss from the Hunger Games. A convenience sample is where individuals who are easiest to reach are chosen for the sample. So for instance, a football game attendees on a favorite sport. So in this example, if you have an interviewer asking people what their favorite sport is and he's asking at a football game, this is considered a convenient sample. It's convenient. Another example is people in the Capitol on the Hunger Games. A simple random sample, or SRS, is choosing elements of a population that have an equal chance of being selected. In a voluntary response and a convenient sample, these are lazy and tend to not achieve the best results. However, a simple random study gives every person in the population an equal opportunity of being a part of that sample. So for instance, if I had a list of student ID numbers and then I randomly selected a student based off of the ID number, that would be a random sample. Another type of random sample is a systematic random sample. The first is chosen at random, then a system or rule is used to choose the rest. So if I had an alphabetical list and then I decided to choose every fifth person on that list, that would be a systematic random sample. Our next sampling technique is called a stratified random sample. This is where we divide a population into groups of similar individuals, choose a simple random sample within each group to form a full sample. So if I divided students into groups by the class they had and then selected a sample from those different groups. So for instance, this is also if we take all of the math classes and chose 2 students from each class to create our sample. Another sample is called a multi-stage sample. This is where we select several groups within a group, and then we select a subgroup, and then select individuals. So for instance, an example of this is we select departments, so math or English, and then teachers within that department, and then we use some of those teachers' students to create our sample. The last sampling technique we're going to talk about, or method of sampling, is a cluster sample. This is where we select several groups, then subgroups, then all individuals in that subgroup. So in our last example, this is like choosing departments, the teachers within that department, and then all of the students in those classes. The last 2 things we're going to talk about are bias. So these different samplings pose a problem. When some groups are left out of a sample, do not respond, are influenced by the question or the interviewer, or are asked leading questions, this is considered a bias of choosing that sample. And then we can also collect data using either an observational study or an experiment. An observational study is thought to be something that you cannot control and the person just watch to see what happens. Whereas an experiment, we are able to control the variables and apply a treatment to see what happens. So we are directly impacting the subjects of our sample. What we will do further is find bias in questioning, determine observational studies and experiments, and be able to identify these different sampling techniques and the issues with them. Thanks for watching.